Hello everyone. So let us proceed with our discussion in the last lecture. We had seen that these are the four Maxwell's equations. Del dot D equal to 0. Del dot B is of course equal to 0. Del cross E is given by minus mu naught del H by del T. And del cross H is given by this expression. So these are the four equations that would work in our optical waveguides, and we saw that instead of trying to solve this complicated kind of equation, we can try out a solution like this, in which Ey would be given by E0yx e to the power I omega t minus kgz, and Hy would be given by this. And so the only thing that is left now to know is what is this function E0yx and what is kg. Okay, so if you can somehow determine the function E0yx which satisfies these four equations, because this is nothing but it has been derived from these four equations itself. So if these two forms are compatible with the Maxwell's equation that we have derived for this particular case, we would get the solution. So E0yx, H0yx and kg, these are the only three unknowns that we would like to know. Once they are known, we would say that we have solved the waveguide equation. Now you can see that if Ey and Hy has this kind of a representation, then what we can derive from here is that d by dz of Ey would be nothing but minus I kg into Ey. So d by dz is replaceable by d by dz is basically replaceable by minus I kg, and similarly d by dt would be replaceable by I omega. So wherever we would have d by dz, we can replace that by minus I kg, and wherever we'll have d by dt, we can replace it with I omega. Okay, so let us use this, and this is possible only if we have agreed that these would be the form of the solution of the optical waveguide. Okay, so d by dz will have to be replaced by this, and d by dt will have to be replaced by this. We further consider something else also, and what is that something else is very important. This is our planar waveguide. Let me draw it again, and so that it's clearer. Planar waveguide, as I had shown it in the earlier diagram, it is when two infinite plane boundaries are placed like this across the z-axis. These are two infinite planes. This is the x-axis, and the planes are placed at x equal to minus d by 2 and plus d by 2. Now what you see is that any wave that would be moving like this, so this is electromagnetic wave, and you can imagine that the electric field of this wave would be somewhere, but it would be always perpendicular to this propagation of direction of propagation. So it would always be perpendicular to this. Now whichever direction it may be, you can always take the component of that electric vector, one that would be in the plane, this xz plane, and the other which would be perpendicular to the plane. So which means that any solution or any propagation that you would consider can be considered of two kinds of waves. One in which the electric field would be perpendicular to the plane of xz that we have shown over here, and the other which would be in the plane of the xz. So one in the xz and the other perpendicular. So the mode in which the electric field, out of the two modes in which the electric field is considered as in the perpendicular direction of xz, which is nothing but the y direction itself. Okay, so one in which E would be in the y direction only, and the other in which E would be in general in the xz plane. So there are two waves, two kinds of waves. One in which the electric field is in the y direction, because any direction electric field, you can always take components in two directions. So one would be the E in y direction, the other would be in general in the xz plane. So other is when electric field is in xz plane. The electromagnetic wave in which the electric field is in the y direction are called transverse electric mode. Transverse electric mode. Whereas, or transverse electric waves, and whatever let me leave out this M, it might. So transverse electric waves. So this is in which E would be only in y direction. What about this one in which E is in xz plane? For that wave in which E is in xz plane, the H of that would obviously be in y plane, y direction. So for this wave, which is in which electric field is in xz plane, actually H would be necessarily in the y direction, H in y direction. There is no other choice, because if electric field is in xz plane, H will have to be in y plane, and so this would be transverse magnetic wave. These are called modes. So if I consider these two modes of waves, one in which the electric field would be transverse, that is in y direction. In this case, H would be in xz plane, because H will have to be perpendicular to that which would be xz plane. So H is in xz plane. So there are two modes now, and the two modes actually covers the entire cases of propagation, which is moving in this plane and moving in the direction of z. So transverse electric modes are in which we have electric field in y direction and H in xz plane, and the transverse magnetic modes are in which the electric field is in xz plane but H is in y direction only. Okay, so I can define it like this, that TE mode, in TE mode, Hx would exist, Hz would exist, and Ey would also exist. So all these three are not zeros, and all other components would be, all others are zero. All other components are zero. They don't exist. So Ex doesn't exist, Ez doesn't exist, and Hy also doesn't exist. And similarly in transverse magnetic mode, in this case Hy would exist, Ex and Ez would also exist. So they are not zeros, but all other components are zero now. Okay, so we have come to this conclusion that the propagation in the planar waveguide is possible either in this mode or in this mode. So let us concentrate on TE mode propagation and try to solve the Maxwell's equation in this case. Now the Maxwell's equation that we can see over here is like that. If I consider the third equation, which is del cross E equal to minus mu naught del H by del T, but I said that del by del T can be considered as I omega, so I would consider this as minus mu naught I omega H. Okay. Now we know that in TE mode, H would have X also component and Z component also. So in this equation, we'll have the X component equal on both the sides and Z component also equal on both the sides. So the X component would be given by mu naught I omega Hx. So X component this side would be equal to X component this side also. What would be the X component that side? It would be given by del E. So this is I j k del by del X, del by del Y, del by del Z, and Ex, Ey, Ez. Okay, so X component is d by dy of Ez and d by dz of Ey. Okay, you can see that d by dy of Ez doesn't exist, so there's nothing. Ez doesn't exist in TE mode. This we are doing it for TE mode, so there is no Ez. So dEz by dy would be 0, but minus d by dz of Ey. So minus d by dz of Ey would be there. Okay, so the X component here is this much and X component this side is this much. D by dz again, we know that d by dz is replaceable by minus I kg. So minus minus plus, so I kg Ey is equal to minus mu naught I omega Hx. I cancels, and so Hx is equal to minus kg by omega mu naught Ey. So this is our first equation. Now the Z component of the same equation. So Z component, the right hand side would be minus mu naught I omega Hz. What would be Z component of this? Z component is this. So it would be d by dx of Ey, d by dx of Ey. So and d by dy of Ex, but Ex doesn't exist for TE mode. TE mode, Ex doesn't exist, and so for TE mode you will be left with only d by dx of Ey, and d by dx would remain d by dx only. So this would be written as Hz is equal to if you take this from the sides, it would be I by mu naught omega and dEy by dx. So this is another equation. Now let us consider this equation, the other curl equation. So del cross H is equal to epsilon naught n square del E by del T. Now you know that E would exist only for, in TE mode only EY exists. So this will have only Y component. So we'll have to take Y component this side also. So the right hand side has a Y component given by this equation. The left hand side would be the Y component. It would be, we can take it from here, Y component is this component. So d by dx of, here it's hz, d by dx of hz exists. So Y components, first it would be this, d by dz of ex, d by dz of h, d by dz of hx minus d by dx of hz. So this is nothing but the Y component of del cross h. Y component of del cross h is this, and this side you'll have epsilon naught n square, and Y component is the only component that would exist, so dy by dt. Okay, so this is from the fourth curl equation, and so d by dz, you know that it can be replaced by what? I kg. So minus I kg hx and minus del hz by del x equal to epsilon, and d by dt can be replaced by I omega epsilon naught n square ey. Okay. So these are the three equations. If I write the two equations here itself again, hx was determined as minus kg by omega mu naught ey, and hz as I by mu naught omega del ey by del x. These two we have already derived, these two I'm writing just together. So these are the three equations that defines actually TE mode. Similarly, we can do it for TM mode, but we will be focusing in this lecture on TE mode itself. The others can be determined exactly in the same manner that we have done in this case. Now you can see that in the first equation, this is actually the third equation, so you have hx, hz, which can be used from here to put inside that. So let me do that. So it is minus I kg into hx, but hx is given by minus kg by omega mu naught ey. So I have written the first term minus del by del x of hz, del by del x of hz. Hz is I by mu naught omega del ey by del x, which is equal to I omega epsilon naught n square ey. Okay, so everything you can see that it's coming in ey now. So minus minus plus I kg square divided by omega mu naught into ey minus I by mu naught omega and d by dx, so d2 ey by dx2 is equal to I omega epsilon naught n square ey. So I also can be removed from everywhere, and you will be left with, if I take this one that side, and so let me take this as positive, So 1 by mu naught omega d2 Ey by dx2 is equal to kg square by omega mu naught minus omega epsilon naught n square into Ey. Okay, let me take mu naught omega also that side. So del square Ey by del x square is equal to it's kg square omega naught mu, so it is minus omega square mu naught epsilon naught n square into Ey. It's kg square minus this omega square, and omega naught epsilon naught can be written as c square, the velocity of light in vacuum, n square Ey. So kg square minus omega square by c square can be written as k naught square, the k for vacuum, electromagnetic waves inside a vacuum. This Ey. So d2 Ey by dx2, this is the wave equation that we are getting now. So the solution of this would be giving us the Ey, and once we know the Ey, this is what we wanted to find out. So Ey would give us the solution. Kg also need to be known. Okay, but this equation you can see that since our n has two values, n is not a constant, which means that we can say that between x equal to minus d by 2 to plus d by 2, n is equal to n1. So the equation would be d2 Ey by dx2 is equal to kg square minus k naught square n1 square Ey, and when x is either more than d by 2 or x is less than minus d by 2, so in both these conditions n would become equal to n2. So d2 Ey by dx2 is equal to kg square minus k naught square n2 square Ey. So we already know in our problem that n1 is more than n2, and this is the two equations that we need to solve for these two regions, for the core, inside core, and outside the cover. So these are the two. Now we know that in our problem, the optical waveguide, the problem is such that we have this knowledge from before that the waves cannot move inside the n2 region. It can be only confined within the n1 region, which means that even the solution should be like that, which means that this will have a wave-like solution between minus d by 2 plus d by 2. This will have a wave-like solution, but this cannot have a wave-like solution. What do we mean by a wave-like solution? Any wave-like solution will have to have of this form, e to the power I omega t minus kx kind of a thing. Okay, so I is very important. I actually defines that it is a wave-like solution. These are simple. If let us say that this quantity kg square minus k naught square n1 square, if kg square minus k naught square n1 square, if this happens to be negative, less than 0, then only the whole thing will have a wave-like solution. If this is negative, which means that if this is equal to, let's say, minus p square, if kg square minus k naught square n1 square is negative, so minus p square, then this would be d2 Ey by dx2 equal to minus p square Ey And so Ey will have solution e to the power I p x plus minus I p x. Now this is a wave solution. This has I over here, so sine x cos x. This is a wave solution. But, and that is what we wanted also, because we want that in this, the first region, it should be a wave-like solution. But in the other region, if kg square minus k naught square n2 square, if that happens to be more than 0, if it is positive, which means that kg square minus k naught square n2 square, let it be some q square or positive, then the equation would tell us that d2 ey, the second equation d2 ey by dx2 would be actually equal to q square ey. Now this is an equation which will have a solution as ey equal to e to the power plus minus qx. Now you can see that this has no wave kind of a nature. Okay, so that is what we want. We want that in the solution, this region should have a wave-like solution, but the other region should not have a wave-like solution. And this can be achieved by demanding that kg square minus k naught square n2 square would be positive, and the other one, the kg square minus k naught square n1 square, should be negative. Okay, so by demanding this, so which means that the solution actually demands that kg square minus k naught square n1 square should be minus p square, and kg square minus k naught square n2 square should be q square. So this should be negative and this should be positive. This is a demand of the solution, because we know that how in reality the waves are progressing, and which means that since this negative would mean that kg square would be less than k naught square n1 square. So kg square is something that will have to be always less than k naught square n1 square, and this equation will tell you that it should be always more than k naught square n2 square. And so kg square by k naught square will have to be between n2 square and n1 square. Okay, so that is how kg also, you can see that we are trying to somehow get some sense out of this kg, what kind of value kg can have. Kg would obviously be restricted between these two values. I mean, these are squares, so kg would be basically between k naught n2 to k naught n1. So this is how we would get some sense of how much would be what would be the limit of this k naught kg. And so we are left with two equation, because the secular equation, we call that is secular equation. Secular equation was that d2 ey by dx2 was equal to kg square minus k naught square n square ey. From here n, we took n1 and n2, and both the cases we saw the solutions were d2 ey by dx2 as minus p square ey, and d2 ey by dx2 as q square ey, where p square and q square are defined like this. So we need to solve these to get the nature of ey, and we have already got some kind of a sense of what kg would be in this case. Okay, so I think next lecture we would start from this point, and try to solve this and find out the nature of EY. Thank you very much.